Welcome to the Hollywood Outsider, an award-winning weekly entertainment podcast covering TV and film. And this week, our topics are a horror sequel movie battle royale, our favorite commercials, and what makes the perfect antihero. Let's get on with the show. My name's Aaron Peterson. Joining me today, eventually, are John Davenport, Amanda Sink, and Troy Heinrichs. They are all here at various points, but we are not actually here this week. We're actually gone. Poof, it's a magic trick. So what we did is we went into the vault and pulled some of our favorite bits from the last year and put them into one wonderful compilation episode of some of our favorite topics. So you're going to hear first our horror sequel movie battle royale, and then we're going to go into our favorite commercials, and then what makes the perfect antihero and some of our favorites. That's what we're going to talk about. That's this whole podcast. I hope you guys enjoy it. I'm just going to get into it, and it's just going to go from topic to topic to topic. And we'll be back next week with our fall TV preview and then eventually our fall movie preview. We've got 2 big shows we're working on. Can't wait for you to check it out. And if you haven't yet, go to Patreon. That's Patreon, patreon.com/The Hollywood Outsider. That's patreon.com/The Hollywood Outsider. And if you support the show, we really do appreciate it. You get bonus episodes every single month, including Bad Movie Night, where we talk about a movie that critics or fans didn't like, but we think is not such a bad movie, as well as we have a bonus episode where we talk randomly listener topics and things like that. But we also have a sneak peek at an upcoming podcast that we're going to be doing, potentially, called Inspired by a True Story. Only available on Patreon right now. We're looking at maybe making that a thing. So check it out. Patreon.com/The Hollywood Outsider. Our normal podcast is available on whatever podcast app you're listening to, as well as we're always on TheHollywoodOutsider.com. Let's go ahead and start with our horror sequel movie battle royale. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the Hollywood Outsider movie battle royale. That is where we take 8 films, 2 favorites from each of our hosts, and we determine which one is the ultimate greatest film in the entire whole universe. It is definitely a lot of fun, and it is time to get to it. Let's decide what is the greatest film of its genre. It's time for the movie battle royale. Okay, we haven't done a movie battle royale in a long time. I think
not since the last time Michael Myers showed up, probably.
Probably it's been a while. So if you're newer to the podcast, we take our 8 choices for the topic. 4 have to come from a listener poll we do on Facebook, from a top 10 on Facebook, and we vote them down until we're left with one clear winner. And this one is as wide open as I've ever seen it from the listeners. So let's get into it. So what is the best horror sequel in history? And really take into account what is the absolute best one. No remakes or reboots are counted here. It has to be a sequel, but it can be any number from 4, 5, 6, whatever is the best sequel. There was somebody in our Facebook group who made the stipulation that a sequel is only the second one. After that, it's not a sequel. I don't understand that concept, but I guess he's probably trying to say it's just basically trying to mimic the second and third and fourth, da-da-da-da. It's any number after the first one is a sequel as far as I'm concerned. Do we agree on this?
I concur.
Sure.
Cool. Okay, so before we get into finalists, were there any sequels that didn't make the cut that do deserve mentioning, John? Like from you. Was there anything that didn't make the final 8 that you know of, because we already know ahead of time what the final 8 are, that you wish would have gotten a mention?
Yeah, I think Friday the 13th, the New Blood one, that one would have been a great sequel to follow.
Over the final chapter? You'd give New Blood over the final chapter?
Yeah.
Why?
There's something about the fact that you have this supernatural beast of Jason, and because he has to be supernatural because he comes back from the dead every single time, and so giving him something that is a supernatural combatant to deal with and something that's harder for him to deal with than anything else, I thought was just an interesting aspect to it and made the whole story so much cooler. So that's one that I would bring up. Also, American Werewolf in Paris, I think, is another one that'd be great to bring up.
I don't know about that one. I mean, I like New Blood a lot. I think that's and I really like the psychic twist, but I did not like American Werewolf in Paris.
Well, what I liked about the American Werewolf, I mean, where they screwed up is because it's definitely a 90s version of American Werewolf, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the beginning of CGI. It's the begin, and they're doing all this CGI
not enough practical effects for sure.
not enough practical effects, and they forget like the best thing about the original American Werewolf in London, which was the practical effect. That was one of the best on-camera practical effects werewolf, and even digital werewolf you've ever seen. So I think the fact that they didn't do that really hurts the film, but it is definitely a continuation of the original American Werewolf and I thought that part was really neat.
I would also mention The Conjuring 2.
Damn you, Amanda.
Also, yes, actually Conjuring, that was another one that was on my list, as well as Paranormal Activity 3.
Oh, yeah, that's a good pick too.
That one I think is better than the first one, because that was the one that actually, the first one I was like, ooh, that's freaky.
Is that the one with the Xbox? They have the Xbox Connect in there or whatever?
No, that's 4.
Okay.
I think 3 was the one where they go back in time to they go back into the 80s or early 90s, where you see the two sisters when they're little kids.
Okay.
And you're dealing with their parents. And it's the one where, like, the freakiest scene in that one is when, like, there's that tremor and the dust falls from the house, and you see all the dust fall on the shape of the monster that is sitting in the room that you can't actually see, but because the dust falls all over him, you kind of sit there and you start like, am I seeing something there? And then it kind of shakes the dust off of itself and walks out of the room. That was one of the freakiest things I've seen in a movie, and it was such an effective effect. So
I'd throw Exorcist 3 in there as well.
That's a great one. Yep.
I would also personally add Final Destination 2 and 3. They both had very memorable death scenes for me.
Well, nobody goes behind a logging truck ever.
I know, and that's from the second one. And the third one...
Actually, when I was in Seattle, I took a picture of the logging truck, and I made sure I was on the side and not behind it.
Yeah,
for that exact reason.
You immediately have to leave. And the third one has a pretty crazy kill with the tanning bed, if you guys remember that one.
Yeah. That whole series is good.
Yeah, it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would, one of my favorite sequels of all time, horror sequels, Fright Night Part 2. Unfortunately, nobody ever saw it. It was it was really sad. I love that movie, though. Julie Carmen was Jerry Dandridge's sister, and I'd have let her bite me wherever she wanted to. It was crazy. But I found a fun fact about that, because I was like, that's the one movie I have to talk about. And so I'm just looking up fun facts about it. And what I found out was, soon after the filming was wrapped up, Roddy McDowall and Fright Night creator Tom Holland were scheduled to meet with Live Entertainment chairman Jose Menendez to discuss making a third film, but plans died with Menendez, who was famously murdered by his sons.
Oh, wow.
And as a direct consequence of this, Part 2 ended up losing its planned countrywide distribution and playing only in one LA theater and another New York theater. And also also directly resulted in its poor box office results. I remember seeing it in the theater, but it got a really low-key release and was very, very minor, and it was only out for like a week. It didn't do very well because of that. I remember it wasn't advertised well. I just remember seeing an ad going, there's a Fright Night Part 2? Because the first one was a hit. And so that's a fun, crazy fact.
That's really sad.
It is too. I love those movies. I love them so much. Okay, well, it's time. We break this into two divisions, all right? Ho North, which is Amanda and I, and Ho South, which is John and Troy. And we have to each sell our two movies. Remember, one of each of our two selections had to be picked from a listener top 10.
Yeah.
Wait. Amanda moved, though. I think since we haven't done a battle royale in so long, we have to like reshuffle the deck of who's on whose teams here.
I was actually just thinking about that. Like, how am I the one who is still on Ho North when I live in Texas and I'm moving to Colorado?
Do you want to change this? Do you want to change this? Troy and I are Ho North, and you and John are Ho South?
Sure.
Troy, are you okay with this?
I mean, that means that we might not get number one sometimes. I mean, you and I usually battle in the semis, and I don't want to have one of Amanda's dumb movies becoming number one.
You guys battle with your semis? Ew.
Stop. Okay, well, we're not going to do it for this time, only because for the editing purposes, I've already got everything set up for the way it is now.
Exactly.
But for future, we can do it. Yeah, future reference. Okay. So, Amanda, sell your two and then take your vote.
All right, so my first one is Dawn of the Dead.
I don't know what else to do.
You're doing fine.
His leg is awful. The infection's spreading quickly. Can't we do something? Can't we take him to a med unit?
I've seen half a dozen guys get bitten by those things. None of them lasted more than 3 days.
This is the second in George Romero's slate of zombie films, and it released in 1978. If you're not familiar, it is about a horde of zombies that swarm over the U.S., and the terrified populace tries everything in their power to escape the attack of the undead, but neither cities nor the countryside prove safe. In Pennsylvania, radio station employees Stephen and his girlfriend Francine escape in the station helicopter, accompanied by 2 renegade SWAT members, Roger and Pete. The group retreats to the haven of an enclosed shopping center to make what could be humanity's last stand. Now, I have some fun facts about it, which hopefully should sell.
Wow.
Yeah, I came prepared, guys. I did research. That's what happens when you don't show up 4 weeks in a row.
Gives you plenty of time.
I know.
Yeah, she misunderstood the bet. She didn't
That's
show
like
up
the
for 4
opposite
weeks.
of showing up for 4 weeks in a row.
The special makeup effects were created by Tom Savini, whose work on the film led to an extensive career creating similar effects for other horror films. In post-production, Romero and Argento edited separate versions of the film for their respective markets. Argento's version features a progressive rock score composed and performed by his frequent collaborators Goblin, while Romero's cut primarily favors stock cues from the De Wolf music library. I'll just add a little note. The reason why I find that to be fascinating is because this is a globally acclaimed horror film, and although it differs depending on the market it fell into, people across the entire globe still align that it is one of the best films of horror in general. Despite facing difficulties with various national censorship boards, in the United States it was released unrated to improve its commercial prospects after it was given an X by the Motion Picture Association of America.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And in Britain, it was liable for seizure during the 1980s video nasties Moral Panic. The film still proved to be a major success at the box office, grossing $66 million worldwide against its estimated budget of $640,000.
Damn.
Mm-hmm. In 2008, it was chosen by Empire magazine as one of the 500 greatest films of all time, along with Night of the Living Dead. Its success in then West Germany earned it the Golden Screen Award, given to films that have at least 3 million admissions within 18 months of release. Rotten Tomatoes reports that 94% of 47 surveyed critics gave the film a positive review. The average rating is 8.6 out of 10. And the site's critical consensus reads, one of the most compelling and entertaining zombie films ever. Dawn of the Dead perfectly blends pure horror and gore with social commentary on material society. Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times gave it 4 out of 5 stars and proclaimed it one of the best horror films ever made. While conceding Dawn of the Dead to be gruesome, sickening, disgusting, violent, brutal, and appalling, exactly like I like my horror movies, Ebert said that nobody ever said art had to be in good taste. That is my first Dawn of the Dead.
That was a lot of stuff.
I know. I came prepared.
I didn't come with
Yeah,
anything.
that's incredible.
Yeah. John, you awake?
Yeah, I am. I was actually riveted the entire time. I was engaged. I was
good.
there.
There we go.
Yes!
There you go.
Okay, so my next one is Scream 4. This is the one from 2011.
Let me just say to our guest, Sidney Prescott, it's an honor.
Beyond Jamie Lee Curtis, forget Linda Blair. I mean, this is the ultimate.
Thanks, I guess. You film your entire high school experience and post it on the net?
Everybody will be doing it someday, Sid.
It's kind of the one component the killer is missing.
Wait, what do you mean?
Well, if you want to be the new version, the killer should be filming the murders.
Yeah, it's like the natural next step in a psycho-slasher innovation. I mean, you film them all real time, and then before you get caught, you upload them into cyberspace.
Making your art as immortal as you. Not to implicate him.
So who do you think is behind the murders?
Well, it's a stab fanatic, clearly. Working on less of a shriekwell and more of a scream-make.
Copyright terms, by the way.
Because all there are now are remakes. Only horror the studio's greenlight. I mean, there are still rules, but the rules have changed. The unexpected is the new cliche.
Yeah, you gotta have an opening sequence that blows the doors off, dial up some flashy music video direction, and the kill's gotta be way more extreme.
Modern audiences get savvy to the rules of the originals.
The film takes place on the 15th anniversary of the original Woodsboro murders and involves Sidney Prescott returning to the town after 10 years, where Ghostface once again begins killing students from Woodsboro High. Like its predecessors, Scream 4 combines the violence of the slasher genre with elements of black comedy and whodunit mystery to satirize the cliches of film remakes. The film also provides commentary on the extensive usage of social media and the obsession with internet fame, which has not gone away in 10 years.
It kind of was ahead of its time, honestly.
It was. Actually, there was a piece of trivia in here that many have credited this film with foreshadowing the effects of social media on today's youth and the extreme lengths that they go to achieve internet fame. So to your point, Aaron. But it received praise for the performances, direction, and humor, although it was criticized for its lack of scares and reliance on cliched formulas. But it also makes a mockery of cliches, and it kind of puts it on its head in that way. Many consider it to be an improvement over its predecessor and has enjoyed several positive reappraisals since, particularly for its examination of the impact of social media. It was released in 3,305 theaters on 4,400 screens and grossed over $1 million in just its midnight previews. In its first weekend worldwide, the film took $37.3 million from 30 territories, behind only Rio, which I thought was fascinating, which took $53.9 million from 62 territories. So it was pretty close, but had less. The film topped the box office in the United Kingdom, taking over $2 million, came in second in France, third in Mexico, and fourth in Australia. Scream 4 won the award for Best Horror Movie. Ghostface came in third place for Best Villain at the Virgin Media Movie Awards and was nominated for a Teen Choice Award for Best Horror Movie.
Well, if you got the Teen Choice Awards
hey, look, we don't get get any awards for horror movies anywhere else. All right.
Silence of the Lambs says, no, that's not right.
Oh, that's true. All right, so I'm going to go to, I guess, soon to be Ho North, Troy. What's your pick between Dawn of the Dead and Scream 4?
Dawn of the Dead.
Easy enough.
he's like, I got no commentary. Dawn of the Dead.
Scream 4 is okay. It's fine for a sequel. It's just screamed out at that point. Like, Dawn of the Dead is still such a better movie, better crafted classic.
I feel you. John?
I'm going to concur with my soon-to-be North counterpart and say that, yeah, Dawn of the Dead is a much better movie, and Scream 4 does not do nearly as much, as I can tell by the fact that I was paying attention to everything you were saying about Dawn of the Dead. And then I completely zoned out and started looking for apartments when you were talking about Scream 4.
Damn.
So you have that. I mean, that's a good indicator of how well you're doing. Also, I'm a little jealous that I did not put this kind of effort into anything. Good job, Amanda.
Thank you. Also, I'm not going to take it personal that you were looking at stuff. I'm going to blame it just on the movie, not me.
Okay.
Aaron?
Well, number one, John, you've had plenty of time to do some research for it before you get there. Like, we're almost to you. You got time. You could have been doing that instead of apartment shopping. Just saying.
I'm sorry, were you saying something?
Yeah, no, not at all. Number two, my vote doesn't count, but I would probably go Dawn of the Dead too. Scream 4 I think is a great movie though. I wish they would have
kept with the alternate ending.
Kept with the original idea that, Sydney died and she got away with it, because I think that would have been freaking awesome.
Yeah.
I know it would have sucked for fans, but on the same token, that's how you push the envelope. That's how you push the envelope.
So just so everyone listening knows who doesn't know, if you've seen the ending, or I guess if you don't care about the ending, instead of Jill, which is Sydney's cousin, dying at the end of the movie, the alternate ending was that Sydney would die.
They gave the impression that she dies,
yeah,
and that she got away with it.
And that Jill gets to continue, and essentially it was supposed to create a new trilogy set, with Jill kind of leading it. But if Sydney still survives and Jill survives, it's not going to, it takes away from that cliffhanger.
Still. All right. So Dawn of the Dead moves to the next round, because in this round,
no surprise,
only 3 votes count. But in the next round, all votes count. And the poll that we originally took in the Facebook group, that's going to settle any ties. Okay. So here we go. My first movie is Army of Darkness.
Yeah. All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up. See this? This is my boomstick. It's a 12-gauge double-barreled Remington. S-Mart's top of the line. You can find this in the sporting goods department. That's right, this sweet baby was made in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Retails for about $109.95. It's got a walnut stock, cobalt blue steel, and a hair trigger. That's right. Shop smart. Shop S-Mart. You got that?
Okay, Ash has been sent to the past, 1300 AD to be exact, and he manages to bring hell on Earth with him. He quickly gains favor with the locals, but just as fast, he unleashes an undead army upon them all. He's selfish, studly, and also the coolest anti-hero to ever grace the horror scene. He's played by Bruce Campbell, one of the greatest of all time. Now, Evil Dead 2 is probably the most well-made of the Evil Dead films. It definitely looks better than Army of Darkness. It's also clever, funny, artistic, visceral, but it's just not as fun as Army of Darkness. I wait on this for so long. But the truth is, I saw Army of Darkness multiple times in the theater and probably 100 times since then. Countless times at home. Both of my kids were legally required to watch it or they didn't get to go to driver's ed. I'm pretty sure that was the deal. It's the most quoted movie I think of in my personal history. This is my boomstick. All right, you primitive screwheads, listen up. Groovy, lady, you got real ugly. And of course, hail to the king, baby. I didn't say they were nice things, but in terms of quoting a movie with friends, Army of Darkness is right there at the top. I've said we had a bad movie night for Army of Darkness, which I don't think is out yet, but it will be coming out soon. And I said in that, it's a friend qualifier. If you drop one of those quotes and somebody knows what that quote refers to, I instantly give them a chance to be my friend because it matters. It makes a difference. This is a film that doesn't need to be shot perfect. It doesn't need to be written sharply. It doesn't need to have Oscar caliber acting. It's just freaking good, cheesy fun. It's a throwback to horror films of the 50s and 60s. I don't believe horror has to be consistently scary. I just have to enjoy it. And I love Army of Darkness. And I will add, because I want to compliment Amanda's research, Army of Darkness made $4 in its entire theatrical run.
$4 whole dollars.
I think that was the number. Nobody saw it in the theater but me and my friend Felicia that went with me. It just did not do great in the theater, but it's had an enormous impact on home video. And there is an alternate ending if you can find it for the director's cut. So that's Army of Darkness. My second film is Blade 2.
Hey, me and the gang were wondering.
What was that?
Can you blush?
Here we go, Pop. Oh, I get it. I see now. You've been training for 2 years to take me out. And now here I am. Ooh, it's exciting, isn't it?
Now, Blade 1 and 3, you could probably qualify as action movies, right? I mean, they're kind of action horror. But Blade 2 is straight up horror. Guillermo del Toro delivered what is probably the best all-around Blade. I would say, as a whole, it's the best all-around Blade film. One of the best fight scenes in the series was the Club Hell scene, if you can remember that one. The entire plot centers around Blade having to work with the vampires to bring down Nomak, a next-generation souped-up vampire that threatens the existence of all man and vampire kind. Blade somehow cures Whistler. He hitches up with Norman Reedus and a gaggle of vamps who include a very badass Ron Perlman as Reinhardt. The film is absolutely horrific. It's bloody, terrifying in its vicious representation of the Reapers. The final battle is ass-kicking and brutal and also kind of sad. Somehow critics gave this only a 57% on Rotten Tomatoes, which feels like a real stretch that anyone wouldn't enjoy Blade 2. But it also just proved that some motherfuckers are always trying to ice skate uphill.
I love that. I love that you chose two movies that are so incredibly quotable.
Because that's what a great movie is. It isn't just, well, artistically, this is... I want to enjoy it. And those two movies are the most fun I've had in the horror sequel genre. So, I will go to Amanda first. Between Army of Darkness and Blade 2.
Yo, she-bitch. I'm going with Army of Darkness.
All right. John, what do you got?
Yeah, this is no contest. Army of Darkness.
Jesus, that was easy. Troy, it doesn't matter what you think, but we'll listen.
That's right, but I'll throw my backbone into Army of Darkness as well.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to have a zombie off. Okay, so that's Ho North. Now we're going to go to Ho South. John, what are your movies?
I'm going to have to disappoint everyone with the complete lack of research and just go off of my feelings because my feelings matter.
Can I ask, research is not that hard to do, man. It takes you 10 minutes.
I stole my stuff from Wikipedia.
See?
Yeah. I looked some stuff up on Wikipedia and I was like, that shit's not interesting. Let me make up stuff.
Okay.
Anyhow.
All right.
I'm going to start with my very first movie. My very first movie is Dr. Sleep.
Mom and I, we never wanted to see snow again. So we lived in Florida. Tiny place, but it was comfortable and we were happy. I was 20 when she died. And back then, I saw, when someone was going to die, I saw flies. Black flies, death flies, I called them, circling people's faces. And in those last weeks, she was covered. Her whole face. I could barely see her eyes. And I tried to comfort her, but I could hardly look at her. And she saw that.
Maybe something warm to push away such unpleasantries.
Don't you want to hear about it? She was your wife.
I think you've mistaken me for someone else.
Now, there is a lot of different reasons why I chose Dr. Sleep, but the primary reason actually happens to be
Rebecca
Mike
Ferguson.
Flanagan.
Oh, sorry. Sorry.
That it's better.
Well-
that it's better than The Shining.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. Mike Flanagan. Mike Flanagan took a movie that Kubrick gave us, and I had heard years upon years about how wonderful the Shining movie was until I finally saw it when I was like 40 or something. And I was not impressed. However, Dr. Sleep takes everything from that movie and creates something completely all its own, and at the same time elevates the hot garbage that is Kubrick's opus to horror.
Are you trying to turn Aaron on with these words?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Dude,
This is getting sexual.
Literally just say The Shining sucks and you hate Kubrick, and I am all over you.
Right. I know what I'm doing.
And Rebecca Ferguson.
So
I didn't even need that. I didn't even need it. The Kubrick and the Shining hate was good.
I was trying to give you a three-way for your birthday, Aaron. That's what it was.
Happy birthday to you.
So one, Mike Flanagan does prove that you can take hot garbage and make something beautiful out of it. Ewan McGregor can sell just about anything. He creates a role that was nothing, and he creates a wholly entire person out of this role, and it's actually very well done. And of course you have Rebecca Ferguson. I'm going to finally say it because while I do love her, she proves that even the worst of people can get me to see their way, and I will follow her everywhere.
She's a great villain.
Hopefully not in alleys.
As this character, not as
no. I'll go in the alley with her.
Don't follow her though. Don't follow her in the alley.
No, I'd go. Yeah,
I'd go.
Yeah.
I'd die happy.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my first movie. My second movie is Aliens.
So this service tunnel must be how they're moving back and forth.
That's right. It moves from the processing station right into the sub-level here. Come down on that. Okay, come over. Post. Go back. Okay, punch that in right there. No, it's back here.
Well, there's a pressure door at this end. Couldn't we put one of the remote sentry units in the tunnel and then seal that door?
Yeah, that'll work, but we gotta figure on them getting into the complex.
That's right. So we repair the barricades at these two intersections.
All right.
And weld plate steel over these ducts here and here and here. That way they can only come at us from these two corridors.
All right, then we put the other sentry units here and here, right?
Right.
Outstanding. All we need is a deck of cards.
Game over, man.
All right, so what can be said about this Alien sequel? Well, one of the things it does very well is it decides to throw everything out from the original movie, that in the way of it doesn't want to do a rehash of all the different scares the original movie does, and it creates something that is not only scary but also thrilling. The first movie does something fantastic by introducing us to these characters, but also that movie can really only be watched once and still have the same effect. Beyond that, it doesn't have the same effect of fear or anything else. This movie, on the other hand, lets you have that fear in the first couple of viewings, but after that, it becomes just something that is a fun, enjoyable ride. And it understands exactly what it's doing. It's taking you on a wild trip to expand a world in which these aliens live in. Also, this movie does an awesome job of solidifying the fact that Sigourney Weaver is a badass. She has always been a badass. She deserves to be a badass. And I get the weirdest boner every time I see a chick with a flamethrower.
Jesus. Okay.
And that was Aliens. So I am going to throw it to my friend Troy and find out which one of these two phenomenally awesome movies he feels is going to win.
I mean, like, it's interesting because The Shining and Alien both are like quintessential like film must watch for its craft and what it brought to the table. And both of these sequels actually make the franchises better. Sadly, we're not going to get the third part of the Dr. Sleep saga, which is really sad. Aliens, however, is just on a whole other level compared to what its first movie was. And I think that's why I have to shift that to be the better sequel, because it's just so much more enjoyable, so much more rewatchable. The lines are better. The acting is great. Airlocks, all of it. When you use some of the actual footage from this movie as the ending for Conker's Bad Fur Day on the Nintendo 64, you know that this movie has literally solidified itself in the zeitgeist. So Aliens, for sure.
Amanda?
For similar reasons to what Troy mentioned, but also Ripley is just such a badass that it's hard not to go for my leading lady.
All right, Aaron, nobody gives a shit, but go ahead.
Well, I will say, Rose the Hat, that's Rebecca Ferguson's character in Dr. Sleep.
It's so good.
One of the best villains of the last few years.
For sure.
Sincerely. She's fantastic. I don't think Ewan McGregor is even close to her level in the movie. That's probably the only reason I don't rate it a little higher. But it's still, she just makes that movie, man. She's just wonderful. But seriously, when you put the two together, you're talking one of the most classic films of all time. Aliens is an all-time classic. It established James Cameron as a guy you don't mess with.
Mm-hmm.
Get away from her, you bitch. Sigourney Weaver, how they created. Well, number one, it was I believe the first Oscar nomination for a female action lead, which was awesome. And the fact that they had her become this action hero, because in the first one, she's kind of she's smart and capable and resourceful, but not really an action badass. Here, she's an action badass.
Mm-hmm.
And they allowed her to also be feminine in the movie, which I thought was a really nice turn. And a lot of that came from Sigourney Weaver saying that, to make certain choices and twists, especially with Newt, that whole motherhood bond that they had. And I just loved it. Plus Michael Biehn and Bill Paxton. And it's a classic. Now, there's a lot of movies in here in this whole list that I enjoy more than Aliens, but in terms of just these two, Aliens by a mile. But it doesn't matter what I think. So next.
Okay.
Troy, what are your two? Troy has a tough one as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, my first one, I had a hard time picking myself. My first one is A Quiet Place 2.
Hey.
Hey, what was that?
I don't know. I don't know what that was.
I'm gonna take the kids home. Okay.
Okay, yeah, my truck's up on Main Street. So.
Okay. All right, everybody in. Let's go. Okay. Straight home. Lee.
All right. Yeah. Good. Your brother say anything going on at the base?
Not that I know of. Just let me call him back.
All right. Yeah, let me know.
Following the deadly events at the Abbott family home from the first movie, they must now face the terrors of the outside world as they continue their fight for survival in silence. Forced to venture into the unknown, they quickly realize that the creatures that hunt by sound are not the only threats that lurk beyond the sand path. Quiet Place expands on the first movie, and without the man that made it happen, and does exactly what it should do as a sequel. It ups the danger, grows the characters into the next phase of themselves post events of the first film. The film also grows the alien characters as well as to what they can or can't do and how they arrived in the first place. Everything a sequel should do to help launch a franchise, Quiet Place 2 was so down the line that Quiet Place 1 and 2 could have actually been one long 3-hour movie, and it would have worked brilliantly. It does all of this too with a cast of kids in Noah Jupe and Melissa Simmons that really, really carry the movie of their own. What makes it a worthy follow-up is the same precise use and disuse of sound. The boundary between the screen and the audience disappears in the silence. The film's budget was actually 3 times bigger than the size of the first film. The development started on the sequel straight after the first film opened to excellent box office numbers and described as a classic horror film by the revered film director William Friedkin. In a tweet dated May 29th, 2021, the tweet ended with, "Cinema is back." And that is Quiet Place Part 2. My second movie is Nightmare on Elm Street 3, The Dream Warriors.
We're the Dream Warriors.
Acting school?
Not in the beginning. I started on a talk show, you know.
But when a young actress says, how do you succeed in this business, you don't always say you have to study.
I think you should study. Study, work, and then maybe you can make it.
Can I ask you something?
Certainly.
Who in the fuck what you think?
This is it, Jennifer. Your big break in TV. From the prime time, bitch.
During a hallucinatory incident, young Kristen Parker, played by Patricia Arquette, which is her first movie. Yes, this is her on-screen debut. Has her wrist slashed by the dream-stalking monster Freddy Krueger, played by Robert Englund. Her mother, mistaking the wounds for a suicide attempt, sends Kristen to a psychiatric ward where she joins a group of similarly troubled teens. One of the doctors there is Nancy Thompson, who basically battled Freddy in the first movie because no one talks about the second one. Nancy senses a potential in Kristen to rid the world of Freddy once and for all. What many feel is the real sequel to the original. This mixes the scare of the first movie and adds some kick-assery in the third. Nancy makes this a true follow-up since she was in the first movie, and I also think this was a great way to continue the Freddy franchise without going to the well the exact same way. This actually showcases the concepts of mental health and how a group can actually support one another and help you overcome that mental health aspect. The reason why it's a great sequel is because on the VHS release that you can get at anywhere but Blockbuster, the music video for Dawkins' Dream Warriors appeared after the credits. The video actually contains many scenes from the movie and ends when the band vanquishes Freddy, causing him to wake up from his nightmare and ask, who were those guys? For 1 week during the filming, Robert Englund is the shit because he was working 24 hours every day for a consistent week because he was wrapping up filming on his television series Downtown and then would report to a Nightmare on Elm Street 3 set at nighttime. So the fact that he was able to play Freddy as well as he did during that week is amazing. And plus, as already mentioned, this is the film that gave us the debuts of Patricia Arquette and, of course, the lovely Jennifer Rubin.
Feels illegal. He wasn't allowed to sleep.
I'm sure he got some sleep in there. They get trailers.
Yeah. He's not working the entire 24 hours chasing people with razor knives.
You don't know that.
I would if I was him. I'd be in the mall and just run around. Yeah.
Aaron,
Freddy!
This one's a complicated one, so we're going to come to you, Mr. Film Critic.
Oh, me?
First. Yes.
Wow. It's hard. I actually like Nightmare on Elm Street 4 better than 3. But
also a good film.
Yeah, also a good film. I mean, but yeah, Rockin' with Dokken. I mean, it's kind of hard to not rave about that. Well, two things. One, Quiet Place 2, fantastic sequel. I think I almost like it as much as the first movie. Legitimately. I think it, and God, Cillian Murphy is so good. So good in that movie. This is a tough one. Like I said, when I started, this is the toughest one, I think, of all of them for me to choose from. I just feel like A Quiet Place 2, it has a little bit of that recency bias because it wasn't too long ago. Mm-hmm. But I can still remember a lot of the scenes in Nightmare on Elm Street 3. You know, I remember was it Jennifer Rubin who was the addict and had the veins just basically on her arm?
Yep.
And the head twisting.
The head twisting, the welcome to prime time bitch, and throws her in the TV, which I don't understand. How do you not know that that's like not a suicide? How did you jump into the TV? That's just a weird thing that the orderly just ignores.
The tendons.
Yeah.
Ripped up.
Oh, yeah.
That
Tendons.
was really cool.
I'm going to have to go with Nightmare on Elm Street 3 for multiple reasons, but I just want to say I don't discount A Quiet Place 2. I think that's a great choice. I'm glad you didn't pick It Chapter 2, which is what I thought you were going to pick, Troy, and that would have made it an easier choice because I don't think that's a great sequel.
No,
but
It Chapter 2 would have fallen
hard. A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Freddy is one of those characters where I don't love the later movies. I think it got too jokey, too cheesy, and everything else. But I do love Nancy's sacrifice in this one. It's great that her character got some return to the forefront, because I do think Freddy's Revenge was not good. So this was a return to the scary of the franchise. You got Dokken, cool video. But Freddy is just also, that right blend of horror and cheese. So I'm going to go with Elm Street 3.
I'm going to go John next, just because Amanda stole my Conjuring 2 from earlier. And I'm a petty bitch.
Well, damn. So I really liked A Quiet Place too. Much like Aaron, I believe that it holds up very well especially in comparison to the first movie. A lot of the acting in it is amazing, and it's infinitely rewatchable as a film. However, Dream Warriors was my introduction to Freddy Krueger for some reason. That movie holds a very special place in my heart. I think that a lot of the things that I love about it have to do with the fact that everyone was trying to work together in their dreams. And so I'm going to have to go with Nightmare on Elm Street.
And Amanda, for fun.
Well, yeah, just for fun. I also would have gone with the third Nightmare on Elm Street, mostly because I feel like for a sequel to be superior to its original and for it to continue to be something that stands out, it has to do something new and creative. And as much as I do like A Quiet Place Part 2, I don't feel like there was that much that was new and unique to it. It played on the same techniques that it used in the first. Whereas this third Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy as a character even changes a little bit. He's more quippy and he has one-liners after his kills. The effects of those kills are insane. They look wonderful and they're very creative there too. I mean, the concept alone is definitely unique and interesting for Dream Warriors. So
it was nice how they combined mental health and
yeah.
These kids are basically, they're not killing themselves, but you get why they would think that,
Yeah. And it's all around, it has a more well-rounded story in terms of trying to create something more progressive and not returning to the wheel. I think, Troy, to your point, when you were actually talking about A Quiet Place Part 2, it feels more like it's...
the well, not the wheel.
What did I say?
You said the wheel.
Oh, okay.
But the wheel goes round and round.
The wheel does go round and round. But on the bus. But to Troy's point, you mentioned that it's kind of like a continuous movie. And so for me, for it to feel superior or to feel like it's a betterment from the original, it has to not only continue the story, but do something different with it. And so that's why I would go with the third Nightmare on Elm Street, if
Both
it matters.
good choices. But Nightmare on Elm Street 3 wins.
Yes, it does. And now we have
Dream Warrior.
We have our North and our South. So you guys ready to battle this out and figure out which one's the winner?
Let's do it.
Remember,
let's do it.
All ties are settled by the poll. So we'll go back to the listener poll if we have a tie.
Groovy.
Ho North semifinal. Dawn of the Dead versus Army of Darkness. It is the most serious zombie movie ever versus not the most serious zombie movie ever. Army of Darkness or Dawn of the Dead, Amanda?
This is tough, but it's also not tough because Bruce Campbell, Sam Raimi, Army of Darkness, it's more than just for me personally, this is a personal opinion, I like that there's something more than the serious nature to Dawn of the Dead. Now, there is so much to be said that I didn't even touch on for that film, and I know it was my pick, and it still is one of the best horror films of all time.
It's great.
But I personally would choose Army of Darkness as a rewatch just because I enjoy that humor and the quippiness of it, and Bruce Campbell alone just brings joy to my soul.
We learned this from the Bad Movie Night, which please go to patreon.com/thehollywoodoutsider and you'll see it. You'll hear it soon. But we learned that this was the first and last lead in a studio film for Bruce Campbell. The only time he ever led a studio film.
Oh.
Everything else was independent. Fun fact.
Love that for him.
All right. So Amanda says Army of Darkness moves on. Troy?
Hey, Dawn of the Dead. You ain't leading anything but two things right now. Jack and shit. Army of Darkness all the way.
All right.
Okay, don't shit on Romero's film, though.
That was funny. John?
No contest. Army of Darkness.
Okay.
I wish we could have recorded the way he did that because he was like so suave about it. He just looked, he tapped his unmute button and he said, no contest. And he just tapped it again with like a little bit of sass to him, sassafras.
Hey, calm down. If you keep going, we're going to hose you down, babe. All right?
Jesus. All right. Well done. One more time. Hail to the king, baby. It's a clean sweep. Army of Darkness. I don't think it's close, personally, for me. Okay. So now we go to Host South, where we have Aliens versus A Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors. Now, I will mention, Aliens doesn't have a Bitchin' Dockin' song, so it's got that going against it. But what do you say, John? Nightmare on Elm Street 3 or Aliens?
Nightmare on Elm Street 3.
Really?
Yeah.
You want to get your own pick.
I really did. I mean, I really love Aliens, but like, I wanted to grow up to become Freddy Krueger, so you can take that however you want.
Please clip your nails.
Multiple ways.
Please clip your nails.
Freddy Krueger, he had all the great lines. Nobody can outsmart him, and even if he did, he almost killed you anyways. So he's one of the best and scariest movie monsters ever made.
All right, Troy Heinrichs.
Oh, that's easy. Dream Warriors. Like, I played Dream Warriors on repeat. It's so good.
Wow. All right, Amanda?
So I have to say that I feel like if we're talking about quality, I do think that Aliens.
Hey, I want to stop you. It's whatever you rate as the best.
I know, but
this is your call.
I'm getting there.
Okay, all right.
But I feel like most people are going to think about it in terms of the quality, and by most standards, Aliens would probably take that. And don't get me wrong, I love Ripley, and I love, like I said, having that powerful female lead. But I just enjoy Nightmare on Elm Street 3 more. And again, to go back to my comments before, and kind of what Aaron said too, it's not just a horror movie. It interjects a lot of social commentary too. And it was a more clever and unique idea. And it was before Freddy got very cheesy and campy in a bad way. So this is, Freddy was my nightmare growing up, and not much scared me. I had always been scared of Freddy Krueger from the first Nightmare on Elm Street until I saw the remake by what's-his-face. And then I learned not to fear him because that movie was so shitty. But yeah, I'd definitely have to go with Dream Warriors.
Wow.
Jackie Earle Haley.
Yeah, Jackie Earle Haley.
So I always wanted Mr. Rogers to wear a black and red striped sweater one time.
That means that Nightmare on Elm Street 3 beat Aliens, because that's 3-1.
Yeah.
What would you have picked, though?
I would have picked Aliens, probably.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Just because the Cameron effect, the Sigourney Weaver effect, I do love that relationship between her and Newt. But I will be perfectly honest, I like them both, but I probably would watch Nightmare on Elm Street 3 before I would watch Aliens again. So I think I probably got caught up in the whole, well, it's considered one of the best movies of all time versus, well, what do you enjoy more, Aaron?
See, and that's what I was saying. Is a lot of people, I think, listening to it are
talking myself out of it. Elm Street 3, yeah, because I probably would, and I definitely would watch Elm Street 3 before I would watch Aliens. I like the Aliens movies. I don't love them. I don't love any of them. I love the first one, probably.
And which of those two actually performs better as the sequel of the first one?
Mm-hmm. Sure. Now, I got to tell you, for me, this is going to be the easiest freaking decision I've ever made. But the finals,
Do we have to actually go through with this?
We have to go through with this. It is Army of Darkness versus Nightmare on Elm Street 3 for the title of the best horror sequel of all time. We've already gotten rid of Aliens. We've gotten rid of Blade 2. We've gotten rid of Dr. Sleep. Well, that's kind of new. We've gotten rid of A Quiet Place 2. A lot of other movies didn't.
We got rid of Dawn of the Dead.
We got rid of Dawn of the Dead.
That's important to note.
Didn't even mention that one. There's some other ones that were mentioned. Hellraiser 2 was left out. Evil Dead 2 was left out of this. These are from listener picks. It Chapter 2 was on there. I don't think that should have been on there. And there's some Halloween 3 Season of the Witch somehow made the list, which I thought was interesting. But I would say that is probably the most unique horror sequel. And it has
I'll give you
that song that everybody hates but also kind of loves. Happy, happy Halloween, 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 happy, happy Halloween.
Yeah, that one is pretty interesting because it takes everything about the Halloween movies and says, we don't care.
It says we don't care.
Truly. They did.
Truly.
They did. Oh, so you love Michael Myers? Great. We're not going to have him here. Okay. Do you love slasher movies? We're not going to do that at all. No. Do you love Halloween masks that make your face turn into worms? No, man. Nobody cares about this. We're going to make a whole movie about that. You're going to love it.
Yeah.
You're going to love
much.
it.
Okay.
It's going to mean everything to you. And we're going to have that guy that stars in all the horror movies that are terrible. We're going to have him.
Don't they not connect those back to the rest of them to this one too? Am I thinking
They
the right one?
actually have the Silver Shamrock masks in Halloween Kills.
Okay.
But they don't connect.
Yeah.
That's stupid. You're just
Right.
pissing me off for no reason.
Well, they're just there as a nod to that Halloween movie.
Well,
That's all.
They also have Jamie Lee Curtis they have Laurie Strode in some of them, and she's died like twice in this freaking franchise, and she's still going. I don't know. She's more.
She's a cat. She's got 9 lives.
She's
Leave her alone.
literally Michael Myers herself. Anyway.
Yeah, well, I mean that's why this works.
We gotta settle this one. So we've got Army of Darkness versus Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors. John.
Like there's a contest here. All right, let me try to fake it. Well, I could always make it about Freddy Krueger. No, I can't even do that. It's Army of Darkness.
Okay. Amanda.
This is very easy for me as well. Army of Darkness. We love us some Bruce, baby. We love us some Bruce.
Troy. I think it's going to be harder for Troy.
Klaatu, Barata, Nightmare on Elm Street 3.
Oh.
Are you serious?
I'm dead serious because here's why.
I figured that might be a possibility.
Here's why.
Okay.
So when you think,
first of all, it's Troy's.
When you think of Army of, it is.
He can't be wrong about anything.
Also true. Army of Darkness. If you did not know anything about Army of Darkness, you would not know it was a sequel to anything. And this is voting for the best sequel horror movie.
I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know if I agree with that.
If you're coming in blind, you could say Nightmare on Elm Street 3 is a sequel. Army of Darkness is just like a standalone movie because there's no reference really to the past stuff at all.
The whole opening is a entrance.
But not have you seen not have you seen it before?
The whole opening comes from the second movie.
I'm aware where it comes from because I've seen the second movie. I'm saying
right.
General audience.
I'm going to
just sits down.
I'm going to finish the thought here.
Fight.
I think what you're missing is that
you're missing it, Troy.
Is that
let's play?
You're missing it, Troy.
I want to play Spec.
Is the opening make it a sequel or not? The answer is yes. Is the opening needed? No.
You just got mansplained, Troy.
Well, I think his point of
that's right.
That the fact that the opening isn't even needed means that it didn't even need the first two movies, meaning this could stand alone, making Nightmare on Elm Street 3 the better sequel, which has proved my point. Thanks, John.
You just got Troy-splained, John.
We agree just now that the movie can stand alone, but it doesn't change the fact that it's a sequel.
It still uses core principles from the earlier.
Core principles and the mathematics that are used in the equation of the quadratic lining of this whole movie makes it a sequel.
Kind of like they do in the movie.
John, give me some sugar, baby.
Troy, I think
God,
more
I can't wait to make
importantly,
out with you.
all that matters is that what you just said doesn't matter because we already know what Aaron's choosing.
I haven't selected yet. And I want to go back to Troy because he didn't get to finish his thought for his explanation as to why.
No, I just think Dream Warriors was like a quintessential sequel where it's Nancy coming into the next movie, it's Freddy coming into the next movie, it's Nancy and Freddy finishing their fight. Where I think Army of Darkness is a great movie and it's definitely a continuation of the other two. It's also very much a very standalone movie. So anybody coming into the franchise wouldn't know it's a sequel unless they knew of the history. So from a pure what we're voting on perspective, I think Nightmare on Elm Street 3 is a better sequel of the franchise.
God, it's a good thing nobody asked you.
Also, it worked really great for my joke. That's why I picked it. All right, so shut up.
Okay, it did work for your joke. I hope you also picked it because you wanted to pick it. I would make the case that the best sequels function as sequels as well as standalone films.
Which Dream Warriors also does.
Preach.
Word.
Preach. Finger snaps.
And I think Dream Warriors is leading two things, Jack and shit. And that film just left town.
I already used that joke.
And it's still funny. I made it happen again. Groovy.
Finger snaps.
Army of Darkness is the winner. Yeah, baby. Honey, you got real ugly. That's a classic line.
I'm going to pick with you later, Aaron.
Commercials. One of our Patreon supporters, for certain tiers, you can actually suggest topics. And Christy Flores, she wanted us to talk about commercials. Those things we used to watch between shows that were supposed to sell us something. Where's the beef? What's up? All of that. Well, we have all said we are done with commercials. I am 100% done with commercials. I never watch them anymore, but Christy, she wanted us to discuss them, and we're going to honor that wish. Plus, now that I've kind of jumped on the well, I'm like, there's a lot of commercials I used to like. Who knew? So when you think about the history of commercials, let's talk about it. So do you miss commercials, or are you one of those network people who still watches them regularly? I'll ask you, Troy, because you watch the most TV out of all of us.
Commercials can bite me.
So you don't watch them. Can we all agree none of us watch commercials anymore? I mean, is that fair assessment?
We don't watch them. We can't say we don't watch them. I watch them during the Super Bowl and when they're force fed to me on YouTube.
Yeah, that's about right. Like, I don't watch commercials at all. And as a matter of fact, I feel more sane in life since I gave up commercials. Like, I feel
gave
like
them up. It wasn't like an addiction. It wasn't like heroin or something. You didn't just quit. You just took them out of your life, right?
Yeah, but I attribute commercials to partly why I have hearing loss today, because the one thing that they did was they standardized the audio volume for the programs, and then they standardized separate audio volumes for commercials. Because if you ever notice a commercial comes on, it is so much louder than the program.
Yeah.
So you could hear it when you got your ass up to go to the fridge in order to get more food or snacks or whatever. So you'd still hear the commercial because it's super loud.
That ringing in my ear that I always have now, commercials.
Huh. I'm sorry, John. What was your point? You were giving a point, and I totally cut you off.
I don't know. Like, I actually appreciate it when you do it, because then I forget shit and I don't actually have to keep going anymore.
Okay, so we're all in agreement. We don't watch commercials. All right, so think about this. Has a TV commercial ever, and I mean ever, convinced you to actually buy something you otherwise wouldn't have, or to pick up something you didn't need or want?
So one of the things that I thought of, there was so you know those as seen on TV commercials, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's basically a TV spot of an infomercial kind of thing that happens, and as opposed to an actual like home shopping network or anything like that. So I got caught by this as seen on TV fishing bait kit. Catch more bass by using this fishing bait kit. Blah,
You're like, I need to get more bass after 3 months of $12.99 installments.
Right. So I bought the bass fishing kit, which wasn't anything different than I could have just like picked my ass up, gone to the bait store, just picked up something, and it would have been better bait. I didn't catch more fish. But yet I had to get it because it was a commercial and it was as seen on TV.
So it worked on you.
Looked cool.
And it worked on me. Yeah.
Sucker. Troy, do you have any where they got you?
100% when I saw the Zelda ad back in the 80s. I'm all like, Zelda.
Oh, well, see, I could have done that too, but that feels that's easy. A given.
That's different. If it's something you already knew you wanted, right? Or is this be the first time you had ever played?
Well, it's the first time I ever knew Zelda was coming out.
Okay.
It was like, I saw that ad and I'm just like, there's a new video game from the Nintendo. Yes. It's a gold cartridge. Even better. Let's go buy it. Yes. Tomorrow.
I it's kind of unfair to, like, we grew up in the 80s. So most of our television in the 80s, if it wasn't an actual commercial, it was a show that was a commercial. I point to Transformers. I point to G.I. Joe.
He-Man.
I point to He-Man. All of those shows, like all those cartoons, like point. once they restrict, lifted some of the restrictions on television for kids, they sold the shit out of us, and we bought.
Yeah, still do.
I just purchased a Optimus Prime Lego set, so they still have got me brainwashed.
Like I said,
I think I said that.
Well, and a Voltron set. So yeah, once they come out with like Mask and Thundercats, totally there.
Right.
Life cereal, because Mikey likes it. That commercial got me. I had to have Life cereal, and it sucked. Mikey's an idiot. Like I don't. Yeah, he does like anything. When you look back at that commercial, you kind of think, well, yeah, it's kind of, I mean, if Mikey likes it, he'll try anything. I think he just likes everything. I think Mikey is an idiot. He's just a simpleton.
His name's Mikey. It's not Mike. Big Michael. Big Michael.
Just some poor autistic kid who eats whatever bland thing you put in front of him.
He will. He's just, he's that kid. Yeah, just eat it. Okay. All right. You probably eat pickles you threw on the floor.
I mean, do you know how much more money Papermate would have made if they would have just given Mikey some whiteout? It would have been like, Mikey likes it.
I can't really think of any other ones where I would actually... commercials never really worked. I mean, I'm sure when I was a kid, like toys and stuff, but I don't remember anything in particular. I do remember the More You Know commercials. I always
It wasn't really a commercial. It was like an after school, after the end of the episode kind of thing. Where it was like
they had
10 seconds.
They were totally commercials, but they were just like, don't do drugs. The more you know. And to me, that was a commercial because I paid attention to those. I didn't pay attention to the actual.
They were technically called public service announcements.
They were, but they were the same length as commercials, so I counted them. My picks, and I won them on commercials. Damn it!
They sold you on not doing drugs.
Yeah, yep, sure did. Well done, well done. So, okay, there's been a billion ads over the years. Do you have any favorite commercials? I mean, I have a couple, and we're going to name the top 10 according to, I don't know, a bunch of researches and polls. But what do you guys have as your favorites?
I got a few. You want me to just rattle these off?
Take them one at a time. Let's discuss. See if we remember any of these things.
All right. So I've always loved the Old Spice. Hello, ladies.
That's a good one. Yeah. And that
is a good one.
Old Spice stinks. It smells like somebody's grandpa, doesn't it? It's not a delightful smell.
Well, are you talking about the deodorant or the cologne or the body wash?
It was deodorant. Wasn't that one deodorant?
It's all deodorant.
Yeah.
But I gotta say, ever since they switched over to this new marketing campaign where they basically do the American houses of Hogwarts on them, those are great.
I will tell you that I use the Old Spice Pure Sport deodorant, and I had a compliment from somebody while we moved my friend, and they were like, "What smells good in here?" And they said, "Oh, it's you." So the fact that I was moving, and this was after we already cleared out from the third floor apartment and moved the truck, that I still smelled good, 4 or 5 hours later into the move.
Troy's like, "It's my taint. Thank you."
I'm just saying, Old Spice commercials work. I guess I bought Old Spice because I saw it on a commercial. Hello, ladies.
Oh, your taint smells like Old Spice. All right, so John, you said you had other ones.
I have other ones.
Okay.
The Kmart, I shipped my pants.
Oh,
that's a good one.
That's a good one. Yeah, I like that one.
Disneyland Paris, the little duck on that one. Did you ever see that one? So it's basically this little duck who sees Donald Duck in a comic book and decides that he wants to go to Disneyland to be like a Donald Duck, and it's like it's a very cute and well done little 3D animated thing where he's traveling along and it's his little duckling and he's looking at the comic book and he starts pretending to be Donald Duck, and it's a couple other things along the way, but it's very sweet and very cute.
And then he finds Donald Duck and he's an asshole.
Yeah, pretty much.
I've never heard that one, but
and French, so the worst.
I don't know that one, but it does make me think of Bulletproof. Remember Bulletproof? Disneyland. There's a throwback.
Let's see. Mountain Dew, Puppy Monkey Baby.
I don't know that one.
Don't remember that, but the slogan was "Do the do." That stuck in your head for a long time.
Well, yeah, and also Puppy Monkey Baby. I liked it because it was hard to say, and I actually had to practice it a couple times because I knew I was going to say it tonight. But it's these guys sitting on a couch, and a puppy monkey baby comes out of the thing, is like Puppy Monkey Baby. And everyone starts doing this crazy dance.
I do remember that now. Now that you say that.
Yeah. Snickers, the Betty White commercial. That's when they first started doing the whole like you're a bit of come on, Steven, you're like Betty White out there, and then Betty White just got tackled and they're picking her up.
Oh,
and she's like, come on, man. And then they end it by Fish from
Barney Miller.
Barney Miller was at the end of that one. That was pretty great.
That's good. That's a good one.
And then my last one is Volkswagen, the one with the little kid wearing Darth Vader's helmet, trying to use the Force on everything.
Oh, that's a good one.
And
that was cute.
And he goes out to the car and puts his hand out in front of the car, and his dad starts the car from inside the house, and he jumps like he just used the Force.
That's such a cute one. That was so cute.
Yeah.
Well done. Those are good.
Thanks.
Troy, you got any?
I've always been more of a tagline person. Like I remember the commercials because of the tagline. And then of course holiday commercials always stick with me. So one that comes to mind is always the Hershey Kiss Christmas bells commercial. They play the "We Wish You a Merry Christmas." It's like a staple. That one's pretty good. And then I also like the clucking bunny for the Cadbury Easter eggs. When it was just the bunny just sitting there, buck, 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 buck. Like that's all the commercial is the entire time. It's just the bunny.
I like when they have the lion. The lion doesn't work.
Yeah.
The lion and bunny ears. Like, rawr!
So those are good. I love most of the Doritos ones that have happened over the course of the years for the Super Bowl. I really like the time travel one where he goes inside his kid's box and they time travel, and then the old dude comes out and says, "Get off my lawn," and then he's like, "It really did work." Like that one. Then there was the one with the guy who's driving in the car and he like sees the girl out the window and then she smiles and it's like spicy. And then he smiles back with a really cheesy grin and it's cheesy. And then he like hits something and then he crunches the bag and it says crunchy. Like I thought that one was pretty well done. I also really like anytime a Toys R Us commercial comes on because I immediately sing the song every single time.
I don't want to grow up.
I'm a Toys R Us kid. Dun, 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 dun,
Every
dun,
time.
dun, 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 dun.
There's a million toys at Toys R Us that I can play with. From bikes to trains to
From
video
bikes
games.
to trains to video games.
There's a million toy stores. There is. I don't want to grow up. 'Cause
Gee
baby,
whiz.
if I did, I wouldn't be a Toys R Us kid. Yes, we know all of that stuff because that's how ingrained and programmed we were.
I must buy toy. I must buy toy. I must buy toy.
I can tell you that I've only ever set foot in a Toys R Us maybe 5 times in my entire life. And those 5 times only happened after I was able to drive myself places.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, man. I remember Toys R Us was the place you went to get the video games and you had to pull the little piece of paper off because they didn't have the video games in the aisle. And you had to go up to the front of the store because it was all behind this glass barricaded Fort Knox thing. Oh.
My parents, when it came to Toys R Us, my parents would never, ever, 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 ever take us there.
And this is why you are the way you are today.
Yeah, that's why I hate things.
Yeah, I get it. But I think the biggest one was the fact, and I guess this goes under the category of I bought something because of a commercial. But I went to the Outback Steakhouse. And while I was at the Outback Steakhouse, not only did I get the bloomin' onion, because that's what you got to do when you're there.
You got to.
But all I remembered was that Foster's was Australian for beer. So I had a Foster's while I was at the Outback.
This just cracks me up.
I'm suddenly remembering basketball. How to speak San Franciscan.
God, that's a funny movie. You guys have already taken a lot of ones that I really enjoy, but I'll tell you one. I'll tell you two, and I'll just. I wish I were an Oscar Mayer wiener.
Oh yeah, good one.
That is what I truly wish. And that the older you get, the weirder that freaking commercial is.
Well, John only feels that way because he got some Oscar Mayer bologna the other day that still had the wrap on it still, if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
so
the
plastic.
That's probably true too. Yeah.
True, but the lyrics. I wish I were an Oscar Mayer wiener. That is what I truly wish to be, because if I were an Oscar Mayer wiener, everyone would be in love. Oh, everyone would be in love. Everyone would be in love with me. I feel like it's creepy now that I'm old.
Yeah, that's
this goes in the category of Aaron will find any possible way to make weirdness happen. Like the Luck Dragon.
You know what?
You're right. Those lyrics aren't weird at all when they're sung by a little kid. Okay.
Right. So also, it's not that if we have anything to say about it, it makes us the problem. Not him. Makes us the problem.
Right.
Don't forget that.
If the kid sang ABCs too while he was trying to sell some alphabet magnets.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. Okay, the other one is oh yeah. That's one of my favorite
Kool-Aid
commercials.
Man.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
There's like a couple of that because like you could say like that's the Kool-Aid Man. You could say that's a Snap into the Slim Jim.
No, that's the Kool-Aid Man.
No,
that's
you could say
yeah, that's cool. Ooh yeah, oh yeah, is Kool-Aid Man. Snap into it.
Yeah.
That's Snap into it. Slim Jim.
Oh yeah. No. Oh no. You better fix that hole before my mom gets home. Was that Date Cook? Oh, that's funny.
Also the Christmas Cocoa Pebbles, Fruity Pebbles commercial?
I don't remember
Santa?
that. I don't remember that.
They do exist.
Well, there's like a lot of polls that put together the top 10
It's the M&M's commercial.
commercials of all time. Which M&M's commercial? The green one?
The one where it's like Santa and the M&Ms run into each other, and the two M&Ms are like, Santa, and Santa turns around. He says Fruity Pebbles thing, but it's not Fruity Pebbles. It's M&Ms.
Oh, is it
I hate
M&Ms?
the fact that I know this.
Is it M&M's?
It's M&Ms because
It
Santa's
is.
surprised.
You know what? You know why I thought Fruity Pebbles? Because the yellow M&M sounds like Barney Rubble in my head. I think that's why I got confused. Like Santa?
All right,
It is M&M's. John is correct.
It is M&Ms.
Thanks for showing up
Yes.
this week, jackass, and not last week.
Yeah. All right, top 10 commercials according to several polls. Number 10 is Always Like a Girl. It's a commercial where there's a lot of phrases like "you throw like a girl," "quit whining like a girl," and stuff like that are kind of.
Oh, I remember that one. That was a Super Bowl ad.
Yeah, it was a Super Bowl ad. Very sweet, very cute ad. Old Spice.
Very sweet ad for feminine products.
Stop. Well, yeah. Old Spice, the man your man could smell like.
Hello, ladies.
Number 8, Dos Equis.
Dos Equis.
Thank you.
Dos
Most
Equis.
interesting man in the world, which I do kind of miss those commercials. I really do. I like those. 7, Energizer. The Energizer Bunny. Escape with the Bunny. Yeah, I hated those commercials. I freaking hated them. I thought they were the stupidest commercials. Number 6 is one I love, though. McDonald's The Showdown. That's one where Michael Jordan and Larry Bird are playing
Oh,
a game of
that's
horse.
a good one. Yeah.
Classic. Budweiser. What's up?
No, I like the frogs better.
What?
Bud.
Yeah, I like the frogs
Bud.
better too. Wait,
Bud.
the What's Up
Wise.
one was good
Bud.
for like
Wise.
5 minutes, and then when whenever you walk into a room and every guy is like, "What's up?"
It got old so
it
fast.
got tired.
They got old very fast. The frogs were better.
It's like it became the Nickelback of commercials. Nothing was actually wrong with the commercial itself, but the fact that everyone overplayed it was a problem.
Yeah, that reminds me. Number 4, Coca-Cola. Meet Joe Green. That's actually a really, really cool commercial.
Classic commercial.
Yeah, it's classic.
That one was fantastic.
That's where Joe Green's having a really bad time, and a kid comes over and shares his bottle of Coke. And he's like, "Man, hey kid, catch!" Throws him a jersey. It's pretty
But
cool.
that was the slogan, have a Coke and a smile.
Yep.
That era.
And shut the hell
Shut
up.
the fuck up.
Eddie Murphy. 3, Tootsie Pop. How many licks
Does it take?
How many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll Tootsie Pop?
2.
3. Number 2 is Wendy's. Where's the beef? Of course. I missed that lady.
Classic.
That lady was great. And number 1 was Apple's 1984. Troy, you're a huge Apple nut. Do you love that commercial?
I mean, that commercial at the time in 1984 is iconic because of the fact that your PC was this monotonous thing and everybody is all doing the same thing. They're in the same color. And it was the first time that the computer was going to be in color. So the fact that she comes running in color in that, I mean, the commercial itself is a very classic, like you teach people how to make commercials using that as an example from an artistic and a script and a mood setting kind of feeling. At the same time, I don't feel like it's like something you remember off the top of your head. Like if you were in that era, if you were in the 80s, like you remember it, but like kids today aren't going to remember it, but they'll remember like, because people look up on the internet, the Where's the Beef or things like that. They tend to stand out a little bit more. I don't think the Apple commercial stands out to today's generation.
Yeah, no, the most effective commercial Apple ever put out was the iPod commercials. That's it. Like the dancing shadows with earphones in.
Those were good.
That is the most effective commercials they've ever did, because all they had to do is sell people on iPods and suddenly they're the top of the heap.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they'd still be in obscurity as far as computers are concerned.
And Mac versus PC wasn't bad, but the problem is that when you do any kind of comparison commercials like that, you're always going to have people that are going to be on one side or the other.
Mm-hmm.
But the concept behind it, I thought, was very clever.
Antiheroes. We've got Black Adam. I don't know if you heard this, but The Rock has told you this about 1 billion times. Black Adam's here. He's going to change the hierarchy of DC Universe. It's going to make the world a better place, whatever, blah, 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 blah. But when it comes to anti-heroes, there's a big disparaging view of them in many respects, because what some people love about anti-heroes, other people hate about anti-heroes. You know, sometimes anti-heroes don't have much of a moral code. Sometimes they do. So what makes a perfect anti-hero? Troy, when you look at anti-heroes, and you've got them across all kinds of genres, what do you consider to be a perfect anti-hero?
I think it's someone that truly means well. It's almost like they could be a villain, but because they end up saving the day or doing something good, it truly makes them into the hero monocle versus the villain side of the coin. But you really have to be able to look at them and say, wow, man or woman, like what you did was really messed up. Like it was just beyond repair, like what you were doing and how you approach the situation. But at the end of the day, I kind of get it. And because I kind of get it, I kind of like you, but I don't want to like you. So it's like this internal, it makes you internally struggle with yourself on whether or not you're going to believe the character and either root for the character or not root for the character. And if you can do that through the entire course of the movie and in the end go, man, that was really great. Like I totally am behind that character, then it's done its job well. But you have to be questioning it like up to the last minute to say like, am I really going to buy into this person or not?
Oh, so you want to debate until really the end, and you go, okay, that's who that guy is or woman is.
Yeah. Can they overcome their own demons and their own struggles in order to do the right thing at the end of the day?
See, I don't need them to do the right thing, and I don't need to question if I'm on their side or not through the whole thing. They could literally be doing the most awful things, but if I can say, I get it, you know, if it's a revenge film and something, which is one of my favorite like subgenres, if I can stand behind it and be like, yeah, I understand, then you're great in my book, especially if it's fun to watch. If it's you're trying to do something for the betterment of the majority, I think a lot of people could consider most of the superheroes that they like, or a lot of them, to fall into that category. Deadpool is a perfect example. We love watching him, but he does some really messed up things. But he's generally doing it for mostly good reasons we can actually accept. You know, for the most
on that
part.
same token, when you phrase, I'm just gonna, because you brought that up, would you say like John Wick is somebody you can get behind? Because when you think about it, he has basically murdered hundreds over a puppy that he knew for 5 minutes.
First of all, it started from this small thing, but they decided they knew that it was going to cut him emotionally and deeply. They were doing something so intentional to hurt him and mess up his life. And honestly, there's no justification for murdering a puppy. Like I'm not going to find I'm not going to find any reasons to get behind you for murdering a puppy. You could have murdered him and maybe I'd get behind you for murdering him. But when you murder the puppy, there's no reason.
What if he pees on your pillow while you're on it?
Then that's really unfortunate. And maybe the puppy sleeps outside if you're going to be really mean to it or something.
Fair enough.
But
all right, good.
That's
point.
more on that's more on you than it is the puppy.
You're right.
Truly, train it right.
You're right.
Train it better.
So on paper, you know, when it's just a bunch of words on paper, antiheroes don't do much of anything for me. The concept of them doesn't really do anything much for me. But when you put the right person behind that antihero, the right actor, when that actor brings that character to life, it's always the actor that I see and gets me to buy into it more. Because if I were to sit there and just read a book about that character or read some, you know, the words on paper, I would never make the kind of connection that I would as the actor behind the character puts into it. So if that actor can convey to me that character is actually somebody that I want to care about, then that's a lot of it. You throw anybody else in the role of Deadpool, you can't do it. You throw anybody else in the role of John Wick, you really can't do it. Even with the puppy sense, like you can't throw anybody other than like with John Wick, Keanu kind of conveys so much emotion in so small space that you really pay attention to him and feel for him. And you really can't see anybody else taking on that role and giving you the same sort of feeling that he does. So that's what to me, the anti-hero is more about the person who portrays them than it is the actual character themselves.
So for me, they have to have a moral code of some sort. I know a lot of people refer to Riddick as this anti-hero. I don't think Riddick is an anti-hero. I think he's just a villain. He has no code except self-preservation, and sometimes people's lives get saved because they were in the way. It's never anything. There's no moral code there except selfishness. While Snake Plissken, which is very much who Riddick is modeled after. I mean, it's almost a carbon copy. Snake Plissken is self-serving, but ultimately does what's right when the time calls for it. That's the difference between a hero or between a villain and an anti-hero. An anti-hero is never a hero because by definition, a hero always does the right thing. There has to be a level of, I don't care, but they also have to have some kind of moral code. There has to be some moral fortitude. There has to be some line that not necessarily that they won't cross, but they are very, very aware and cognizant that exists. A character like a Riddick doesn't know that line exists because they don't care. Plissken knows, and he won't step over certain lines. I have no doubt Riddick would take a baby and throw it off a cliff if it meant Riddick's going to live. Plissken never would. That's the difference in my mind, between those two characters. So moral code's number one. An ability to do what others will not do because their code's too rigid. So that's a real big difference between an anti-hero and a hero. Is a hero has a hard stop. Captain America, even when he was going against the Accords, he still had a hard stop of things he won't do. I will not do that. That is wrong, period. An anti-hero will, I think it's doable. I think we can do that. I think it's okay if we murder 12 people, if it's for the greater good. It's basically every Chuck Norris character of all time. They will go that extra distance if it's for the greater good. It's almost every Clint Eastwood character of all time. I mean, there's a lot of actors who spent their whole careers playing anti-heroes for good reason, because they're the people that we wish we had in our world, even though we really don't want them. We don't want vigilantes and all that stuff. But on the same token, there are so many injustices and wrongs.
Speak for yourself, first of all.
There's so many injustices and wrongs that you wish somebody would come in and fix it and address it, because the rules make it so hard to get things done. You know what I mean? You need Dalton to come in and roundhouse kick some people to the face in order to clean up that bar, because otherwise it's never going to happen. You got to be nice until it's time to not be nice. There you go. And determination to solve whatever dilemma they're dealing with. No time for those rules. That's my perfect antihero. Do you ever have a difficult time rooting for them, Amanda? It sounds like you don't.
Hardly ever. Generally, if I feel like they're... Bye! If it's justified, I mean, I get it. It sucks. And it might be me. I might be one of the ones who die. But, I get it. There's a lot of that. I feel like I'll use Game of Thrones because I was just watching the newest House of the Dragon. There are so many times where there are characters who do really horrific things. In any normal standard, you'd be like, that's a really bad thing to do to someone. But if you understand the context changes things entirely. You might be like, okay, well, I kind of get it, because they're trying to do what's actually going to be best and maybe help the majority of people versus just preserving this one person or something. There's a lot that I can, forgive, I guess, for someone if I feel like they're justified, if they're going for justice, if it's for revenge, those sorts of things where I can back you. And if you were really harmed or destroyed or something like that, and you do something even worse to exact your revenge, I'm literally going to root you on. Go, sister. I am on board with you. I will I will take part in your quest if I can. That's where I stand. There's an episode of 24 where Jack Bauer is trying to, I don't remember what the mission was.
Electrocuted dude with nipples?
Mm-hmm. No, not just that one. No, it was the
shoot the guy's wife to get him to talk.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So he has this, he's trying to interrogate this guy who's played by Peter Weller, and instead he shoots his wife in the leg to get him to talk, which he doesn't. What an a-hole. I was okay with that. So I have no problem with anti-heroes in entertainment, because if it's for the right mission, I have no problem with it.
I'm a little exhausted by anti-heroes. I feel like we're surrounded by them in every single bit of entertainment. And, I think we need a little bit more Captain Americas out there.
Aren't you kind of tired of Captain America? Like, I love Captain America, but I feel like that's what we've had the White Knights for most of our life on Earth until the last probably decade, maybe 15 years.
I disagree.
No.
The 80s are full of anti-heroes.
Yeah, the
guys
80s,
that go out
90s.
machismo. Yeah.
80s, 90s, the 90s gave us Deadpool. The 90s gave us Punisher. The 90s gave us so many of these characters that everyone's so proud of, and, gung-ho, Lobo, which isn't in movies yet, but we're going to see him eventually. The 90s was like an era in which a lot of these anti-heroes that we're looking at now are strongly based off of. So it's exhausting to me, because we've become, as a society, we've become so many people who look at anti-heroes more often than we do at heroes. Like your reaction, Aaron, was, aren't you tired of that? And no, I think we need more of that.
I need flaws, man. I need flaws. I don't want people that just don't have any flaws. Anti-heroes have flaws. Heroes never have any flaws. They're always so
Captain
perfect.
America had flaws. He was a man.
Hey, he's my favorite Marvel universe hero that isn't Deadpool. But I don't even, they're not in the same universe. Not yet. So
Deadpool's not a hero though either.
I love Captain America because he does stand hard and fast, because I try to be like that in my real life. But when I'm watching TV, man, it gets a little tiring when they're, I'm always going to do the right thing. I'm always going to do the right thing. When we live in a world where nobody does the right thing, it feels like.
Yeah. Well,
I think it's ironic that you're saying that, because to John's point, all of the things that you love.
I want to see it more
but
in the real
hold on,
world.
all the things that you love, especially if you look at the 80s and use Snake Plissken as your example, use Han Solo for Christ's sake if
He's
you
not
want.
one of my favorites. Indiana Jones is one of my favorites.
But they're iconic.
Sure,
Also an anti-hero, I would argue. They're the people who are flawed, and we exist solely, I think, in a society where people are extremely flawed and they try to do the right thing. Sometimes they fail, sometimes they don't. And having actual heroes, people who have life flaws and things like that, but just have such a strong moral compass, that's even more rare. We don't get that in our reality, and we sure as hell don't get that very often in our movies.
Yeah, because you're trying
TV
to
shows.
think about society today, and much like Aaron, I want to do the right thing, and I live from a pretty good moral code perspective, but at some point the right thing is the wrong thing, and that's when revolution happens, and revolution has to happen in order for change to take place sometimes. And it's these anti-heroes that are standing up and saying, hey, this is wrong, we got to do it differently, and they're willing to say why not, and they're willing to ruffle some feathers in order to make it happen, because when it happens, you're like, hey, this is actually a good thing.
I'm gonna leave you with one quick point. To think about how influenced our society has become by anti-heroes and how it's been portrayed. And I'm not trying to say that movies and TV shows have created this in our society, but I do think it's become something that people look up to, in certain minds and certain individuals who have their own struggles think that they can become quote unquote heroic, but truly they're more of, I mean, I wouldn't even call him an anti-hero, but they think they're being an anti-hero. And I'll leave you with Kyle Rittenhouse as an example. That's someone who went to a situation armed and ready to, what he thought, do something heroic, ended up murdering people. And that, feel however you want about what happened, that is still someone who felt that they were essentially being an anti-hero. And we have a lot of people who fall underneath that category in society these days, significantly more than people who are just going out there and being heroic, willing to put their lives on the line for literally anybody.
I think we have in the real world, we have more just non-heroes. They're just, I wouldn't call them quite villains. Well, they're selfish, self-preservation. I mean, I never in a million years thought I'd call Liz Cheney a hero, but I will now. Anybody that stands up to that kind of nonsense, to flat out, yeah, and I'll say it, flat out lies. Anybody that stands up to that, I admire. Whether I agree with her politically or not, I admire that. But I'm talking like just in entertainment. Maybe I just side. Maybe I like them more. I like them more in entertainment. I wish we had better people that are heroes in the real world. Because I guess when you see antiheroes in movie and TV, at least they're standing up for the right thing.
They're funner.
I feel like in the real world, they're always standing up for the wrong thing. The people that think they're rebels are standing up for things that aren't good or decent or honorable. It's really just self-preservation, selfish motives. It's never really for the betterment of others.
Right. That's why, like, going back to Amanda saying with Kyle, I mean, that is exactly what Aaron's talking about. That's not anti-hero. That is just, I'm going to do it because I want to get my 15 minutes of fame. That's a completely different way to look at it.
Well, I'm not going to, all I'm going to do is like look at some of the iconography that is being
Look at you using
from...
big words, John. That's hot.
Yeah.
Look at you go.
Look at some of the iconography that's being borrowed from media. Track down who's using the Punisher skull for whatever it is they're using it for.
Oh yeah.
Track down, even Deadpool's to some degree. Track down who's using Deadpool for their logos and that sort of thing. And you start to realize that maybe we are pushing some things a little too far, and we do need to be prouder of our heroes than we have been.
That's a good point. Maybe I come from a generation and I lived a life where I very much was Bender. So maybe that's just what I see as, I feel like for my generation, a lot of the people that would, I guess, be called antiheroes were standing up for what was right. And we live currently in a world where there's way too many people only standing up for their own self-interests.
Right.
It really has very little to do with what's
and I'm really
best
sorry that
for
I
us.
turned this conversation into what it is.
No, because there's definitely a
don't apologize at
it's
all.
a matter of like, it's not like have and have nots or right and wrong, but there is just something that's morally correct. And the fact that we have people doing immoral things and the things that are morally correct don't get the light of day, or don't get the people to stand up for the things that are morally correct. And I'm not talking, right wing moral. I'm just talking about like human life, decency things, right? People need food. People need jobs. People need education. People need healthcare. There's just moral things that need to happen. And if there's an anti-hero that can stand up and fight against the system in order to make that change happen, like those are the people that should be celebrated, as long as they do it in a civil, nonviolent way.
But see, that's something that we could idealize, but isn't going to play well in film. So we go to anti-heroes. We go to the ones where they can break rules, but we can still side with them. And like, they're a little bit edgy, they're rebellious, but they're fun. And what they do is fun. They make it fun. They make it appealing to be that rule breaker, even if it's in pursuit of justice. It doesn't matter what the reasoning is, as long as you make it look cool and you make it look fun. And that is exactly how every anti-hero is portrayed.
That's true, but I do think people would celebrate more heroes. I guess you're right. There probably aren't as many straight up heroes as there used to be. Is that fair? I guess you probably have a good assessment there, John.
Yeah.
Maybe because people have become more interested in nuanced heroes and nuanced villains and everything else. So a lot of villains are kind of going the other way and vice versa. But then you've got, Top Gun, Maverick, massive hit. People loved it. It made $1 bazillion at the box office. And I have a hard time, even though he is a little bit of a rule stretcher, I wouldn't call Maverick an anti-hero. I think he's a straight up golden boy hero of a bygone era in a way. So do you feel like that movie success means that people do want more of what you're talking about, John? Like they want more of that and less of the angsty, flawed anti-heroes?
God, I hope so. I mean, Top Gun had a lot of things that are going in its direction. You do have a lot of nostalgia behind it. You do have the fact that it's a perfect story for this time in our lives. The other thing it's going for it is that you do have a hero who is on every single level a flawed person. So he's somebody who wants to do who feels like he belongs in the cockpit of a plane, who feels like he needs to be on the front line of every single battle, and who is trying to do the very best he can to be the very best pilot to be able to do all those things. Yeah, he is all those things, and like he does the best he can to do right. So God, I really hope that eventually we start seeing more heroes like that because my heroes growing up were Optimus Prime, Luke Skywalker, and I always felt like the power of your promise is more important than anything else. And like, I know that in my adult life that I've lived that rule, and on every single level, my promise is that I'll treat everyone the way I want to be treated. And I will, if I do make a specific promise to you, it gets held to the exact letter of that promise. And I wish more people would do that.
See, I kind of feel like Maverick isn't a hero. I feel like he does fall more into anti-hero because he's willing to take risks that could end other people's lives in the sorts of training he did. It was so dangerous that they were like, literally only this guy can do it. But he's like, no, I'm going to teach you guys how to do it. And if you decide not to do it, you're pansies. You're going to do it because you can.
I don't think he said
I don't think the movie went like that at all.
I don't.
I think that's a very dark way to look at that movie.
Yeah.
But he takes a lot of dangerous risks.
He believed. He had the elite, Manda. He believed in them.
Sure.
Yeah.
But he's not Ted Lasso. Ted Lasso is someone who is just pure, like Captain America, but still has
he never
human
laid down.
flaws.
He never laid down in front of Maverick's plane. You know what I'm saying?
But
what I think is funny is that I've heard nothing but amazing things about Ted Lasso, and everyone's always said that I need to watch that show. I still
haven't
refuse,
watched it?
and I'm not going to do it.
No, John, you have to.
Amanda, finish your thought.
If there's anybody that needs
I
to
will
watch
literally
Ted Lasso,
pay you.
it's John.
Yeah.
The other thing that I think makes anti-hero properties so prominent in our society is people, especially nowadays, we're so overwhelmed and consumed by the negative news and the bad things that are happening in society that we're looking for a source that can fix all of those wrongs. And we don't want to live in the pure goodness of a heroic state because it's too easy and it doesn't feel like it's reality. That feels too far-fetched for us. And so to live in an anti-hero world or in these properties, you have a flawed society where things are being resolved, but it feels real. It feels like we can connect and put ourselves into that situation, and we're actually hopeful that somebody will come in and fix these damn problems. And that's where I think we're so consumed in, versus like, we don't want to be completely happy. We don't want the Brady Bunch.
So who are your favorites? Who are your favorites? Your favorite anti-heroes? That's the topic we were talking about. Who are your favorite anti-heroes? Troy.
I'm going to say Ellie from The Last of Us, which granted is a video game, but it is coming to HBO next year, and I'm super excited. But Ellie is a classic anti-hero, especially when you get into the second game.
Well, thanks for the spoiler.
Really, really, really interesting arc for her. Cable, Deadpool 2, really love that he's just doing what he needs to do to fight for what he believes in for his kid, and I think that's just a real classic one there. How can you not go with Billy Butcher from The Boys? I mean, the dude is like, if I could be Billy Butcher, I totally would, because I think he's just super awesome. And
you just want to call everybody the C word? Is that why?
No, Urban's just really cool. I just liked him from everything that he acts in, everything that he's done, from Lord of the Rings all the way to The Boys. He's just a great actor, and I love what he does with the character.
Is he really an anti-hero, or is he more of a villain that just
He's a villain. He is a straight up villain, but I think he's trying to do what's right for the world, so kind of an anti-hero.
Well, and he's doing what's right for his like,
I can see the argument.
Missing
he's
wife
trying
and
to
missing
take
kid.
revenge on Scoops for what they did to his wife.
Yeah.
But he ultimately has done what's right for others. So he has done good too, as well. So
I think that qualifies as anti-hero.
Yep.
Yeah, he doesn't give a shit about others, though.
That's
He's
not
just
true.
doing it for revenge.
That's not true. He cares about Hugh.
Yeah.
Huey?
Yeah, he cares about him. Yep.
He messed Huey up, so whatever. Go ahead.
We agree to
Sorry,
disagree.
Troy.
He prevented that little tiny Ant-Man from running around after the first episode of season 3. That's all that matters to me.
That's funny. That's funny. Who else you got, Troy?
And then Arya Stark Obviously, starts out as a
yes.
small child. Don't really think that they're anything, and then it turns into a lethal assassin. Especially when you talk about that season 7 open. I mean, just super badass.
Amanda?
So first of all, I love the Arya pick. And what I'm noticing through a lot of these choices, just from hearing Troy's list, is that we also, not only do we make a lot of these anti-heroes really cool, but we also make them, and I'm going to take Arya out of that because she's a child, we make a lot of them really hot. We make them attractive. Like, we either want to befriend them or we want to, like, be with them. Frank Castle, the Punisher, great choice. He's an example of that.
And the thing I was looking at when I was looking at my list here, Amanda, too, now that you mentioned that, I had June from The Handmaid's Tale as well. All of these people on my list are having to do with family.
Yeah, that's a good point, too.
Family.
Family. Also, I have to mention Professor Snape because he is one of the most underrated, I feel like, but incredible anti-heroes to have existed, because everyone thought he was a villain from the beginning, but he really did turn out to be a good guy just trying to do the right thing and had to make sacrifices along the way. Spike and Angel from Buffy. I can't not mention them.
I'll take Angel over
I'll
Spike.
I'll give you Angel. Spike's still a douche.
Yeah.
He raped her. He raped her.
He's not he's a villain as far as I'm concerned.
I honestly don't even count that because I feel like it was just it was so out of character. Like, they just did a horrible job with the writing for that character. It did not fit.
I think that's where Josh's career went off the rails, is when they put Spike in the finale.
Elizabeth Salander from The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo.
Oh,
I love me some revenge, ladies. I really love revenge flicks. So someone like her is iconic for me. Walter and Jesse from Breaking Bad. How do you not root for them, even though they're selling a lot of drugs?
Whoa. Hold on a second.
I'll give you Jesse.
Walter, yes. No, I'll give you Walter. Jesse is what we call a victim.
Okay,
Jesse was gaslit the whole way.
I will never give you Walter. He is not a hero in any way. He is a straight up villain. He's just
he starts as an anti-hero and then he turns into a villain. But he starts.
Does he turn
in
into
the beginning,
it, or was he always one?
That's a great question. But I think
that's a great debate about the show.
Yeah,
it is. It starts where he is an anti-hero. He's just trying to make ends meet. But here's the thing: is these circumstances can turn you into a villain. And if you lean too far into your anti-hero-ness and trying to, quote-unquote, get justice, sometimes you fall and you get so into it that you are consumed by these bad actions and you become the villain of your story. And that's where Walter sits. But he started as an anti-hero, and so that's kind of where I'm like, the two of them.
Anything else?
And then John Wick.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Gotta mention John Wick again. You kill a puppy, you deserve to die. That's how it is.
I'm going to give you two that I think are anti-heroes and I'm going to explain the reasoning. One, the shark from Jaws.
You want to come in my land? You deserve to die.
What exactly did he do wrong? I mean, if we were in the forest, we took down a deer, would they be villains? I don't know. I mean, it really just depends on your perspective. They could be just hungry. I don't know. He's in the ocean. You're swimming in he's just hunting. That's all he's doing. He's not, except maybe in Jaws 4, that's a straight up villain because he's attacking one family for some reason. But the shark in Jaws, total anti-hero. Because he's got a moral code. He's to eat. He's just going to eat. And he'll do whatever he can.
He's a survivalist.
There you go. Exactly. Another one, similar vein, the Queen Alien. What did she do wrong? You went on a mission to kill her. She did nothing to you. She's just hanging out at her house, and you decided to barge in with a freaking Bill Paxton. That is not a welcome. I would not embrace you either. I would want to kill you and everyone that you came with. Anti-hero.
So this is where perspective is really key, because depending on the way you look at it is how you're going to see and determine who's the anti-hero and who's the villain.
Agreed.
You think about the war that America has started in many instances, even though we feel justified and we feel like we're doing the right thing because morality and stuff, you look on the other side, there are kids who are
we're not a political podcast.
I'm going to sidestep the social justice and go right to so the Queen Alien, shit a bunch of babies out of front, and those babies ate a bunch of people.
Again, they were just surviving. So is really the Queen Alien doing anything that a mama bear wouldn't do? Is she really that wrong? I'm like, if you look at it from her perspective, is she really that wrong? Did she she didn't go to Earth and then start eating humans. They went to her house and decided to kill her.
So you're really saying that Leonardo DiCaprio was wrong and the bear was actually the anti-hero?
Kind of.
Well, the bear just wanted to get freaky.
Yeah. I mean, you're in the woods. So my other anti-hero, Snake Plissken, I already talked about. Bender, I already talked about him. Malcolm Reynolds, obviously from Firefly / Serenity, one of my favorites of all time. Mila Jovovich in literally everything. Even though I very rarely like the movies that she's actually made, I think she's fantastic as an anti-hero, like always. She's great. It's the movies because she keeps doing them with her crappy filmmaker husband. Ash Williams, we talked about him enough last week, so I don't really need to go into that. Raylan Givens, one of my favorites. The Bride. The Bride. Danny Ocean. Love Danny Ocean. I would definitely call him an anti-hero. He's doing a lot of wrong, but he's also trying to do right. Wolverine. Mm-hmm. And any Sylvester Stallone character. It's probably why I like him. Or
Rambo,
Van Damme.
for sure.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Cobra.
Anything from the 80s.
Well, First Blood is one of the best anti-hero films you'll ever see. Because that is a guy that he's literally done nothing wrong except be tortured and punished for his being because they see him as inferior in many respects. And so the training that we gave him is what he reacted with. So it's a total anti-hero. It's such a great movie too. First Blood is a fantastic movie. Doc Holliday, I would put him as an anti-hero because he does ultimately do what's right when it matters. Jack Bauer, of course. I mean, Batman. I think Batman's probably the most famous.
Yep.
Anti-hero. Because let's not joke around. I mean, this is a guy who's got severe issues and loves beating the shit out of random people. He's not a hero, but he's an anti-hero because he's ultimately doing it
being
for
bad
good.
people, though.
Of course, never makes a mistake, right? Couldn't just beat the shit out of the wrong guy or woman.
Yeah, I'm not going to have this argument with you.
And Eric Draven, of course, the Crow.
Nobody from Cobra Kai?
Well, you know what? Johnny Lawrence. Yeah, I guess you could call Johnny Lawrence.
He's got a softball team of people as anti-heroes already. You want to throw some more on there? It's like listening to one of your lists, Amanda. Come on.
Yeah, it's actually a list. I did research. So you want to say Johnny Lawrence? I think that works. Yeah, 100%. He's an anti-hero. He wasn't until Cobra Kai, though. He was just a villain.
Yep, I'll give you that. Yep.
All right, how about this for some research? All right, William Defense Foster falling down.
I cannot call him an anti-hero.
He is an anti-hero.
He is. You're talking about Michael Douglas's character, yeah?
Yes.
No way. No. Nope. I do not find him heroic. I get what you're saying, but there's a lot of, where he's just a flat out racist in many respects. So I don't consider that heroic.
Okay. Speaking of racist, my next person on my roster, Derek Vineyard from American History X. That's Edward Norton's character.
I still can't go with that one either. He's same vein. Why do you consider him an anti-hero? I'm curious.
Well, because he's completely down the wrong road at the beginning of the movie, and then is put in a situation where he has to completely reset his entire way of being, and actually turns it all around.
That's a redemption story. I can get behind that as the way that you're posturing it.
Okay. Don Draper.
He's just a straight up dick. When is he a hero?
There's a lot of times in which he actually does the right thing for other people, but he is a straight up dick.
Okay.
He's still considered the protagonist, so
yeah.
I feel like he qualifies.
What else you got?
And my final one is Annalise Keating from How to Get Away with Murder.
Oh, that's
I've
a
never
good
watched
pick.
that show.
That is a really good pick. That was my strongest pick, but
Clearly.
Yeah, she is. Huh? All my picks are really good. All of my picks are really good, but that was the one that I was like, oh, this one is actually this is actually the epitome of an anti-hero, because she helps people.
That's Viola Davis, right?
Basis.
Yeah, Viola Davis.
Yeah, it's Viola Davis. She helps people on a regular basis for ultimately selfish reasons,
including the people she's tutoring and trying to help with the law firm.
Yep.
Well, they're all getting it on with each other.
Let's get it on.
Yeah, that was pretty hot.
All right.
Did you actually finish that series, John? Did you watch the whole thing?
Yeah, I did.
I didn't watch the last season, but did it end good?
It ended very strongly. Actually, the ending made me cry. So it was really
I'll
good.
go back.
Well, I mean, he wasn't the show. He was peeling an onion when he watched it. That's what I understood. So some listener comments for the best anti-heroes that they could think of. Jennifer Miller, 3 that come to mind are Mad Max, Han Solo, and Snake Plissken. Mad Max is a good one. They all have a big heart, but huge walls built around them. I thought it said Walla Walla. Sorry. So they seem like rogue, selfish people, but when everything's on the line, they do what's right. That's a good example.
That's a good pick.
Nate Bruce, Dominic Toretto. Now him, I would definitely call an anti-hero.
Family.
Scott Clark's got a really good one. Porter from Payback. He was a likable anti-hero. Even though he was often a doofus, he was relatable, yet a badass when he needed to be. And the movie's trailer said it was fun rooting for the bad guy. Yeah, I mean, I think that's definitely an anti-hero. It's a good one. I like that movie a lot. Director's cut, if you can find it at Payback, great. Adam Smith, Jack Sparrow, for sure.
For sure.
100%. Andreas Rielsel, I always say his name wrong, so that'll be the 14th pronunciation of it. William Money.
That was nowhere near it.
William Money, Clint Eastwood in Unforgiven. I can watch this movie any day. It's perfection. William is bad to the bone from start to finish with some hints of a better person he could have been if he made different decisions. But in the end, it all comes down to him turning into the monster he always was to take revenge. And he's still a guy I root for. I definitely agree he is an anti-hero in Unforgiven. I think it's Clint Eastwood's best role. And you can see him trying to be a hero the entire movie, and then his better nature just takes over when his friend is taken from him. Oh, brutal scene, but I love it when he goes after the entire bar. Oh, so good. Becky Trumbo, Ash Williams. I know you just did a whole thing on Army of Darkness, so it feels like cheating, but it's always Ash because Bruce Campbell. I can't say it better than that. Success, and that's going to do it for this episode. So remember that the next time you head down to a theater or stream comfortably on your couch, but mostly you go to a theater because theaters are kicking ass right now. Buy popcorn.
And that's where the actors make money.
True. Buy popcorn.